Welcome everybody. This is our first webinar for the SMEs for our second open call on innovation experiments. I am Dimitra Perperidou and I work for Traxis, which is an SME located in Thessaloniki. We are responsible for the communication of agROBOFOOD. We would like to thank you for taking the time to join us today. So you pretty much know the agenda for today. We're going to explain the process and a few things about the current open call. Please make sure to ask your questions in the chat. We will make sure to answer all your questions so that we can help you with your application. Mr. Dragana Petkovic will explain, who is responsible for the open calls, will explain everything step by step. You can ask in the chat that you can see in your browser, or of course you can send us afterwards if you have any more questions, you can send them to us to help you clarify everything. So, Dragana, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, Dimitra. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. Thanks for taking the time to join us here. And today we will be talking about our second open call for innovation experiments, which is also the last open call in agROBOFOOD. So we're a bit sentimental about this. So I believe that some of you have already tried to apply to one of our open calls. Some of you are here for the first time. And I would like to, of course, start first with our vision and what agROBOFOOD as a project does, so that you can understand in a broader sense how agROBOFOOD functions and why we are actually here. So the vision of agROBOFOOD is actually related to expanding and establishing a network of digital innovation hubs all across Europe. And this is a way that we see that stimulating the implementation of high-tech robotic concepts for the agri-food can be actually done. And our goal is to actually try to demonstrate the applicability of these technologies under practical circumstances. So through all of our open calls, we are looking for experiments in robotics for the agri-food sector that are in a sufficiently high TRL level so that they can be actually expanded on, improved, and ready to go to market when the project implementation is completed. For our digital innovation hubs, we see them as very important partners, as the centers who actually offer different types of services to SMEs in Europe. These services are mostly related to technical development, but also business services and ecosystem services, which support industries' digitization and robotization. We're looking, of course, for highly innovative cross-border experiments and cross-sectoral as well, because in this way we are contributing to the growth of the ecosystem, to fostering new digital innovation hubs and competence centers, and engaging end users across the value chain. As I mentioned, we had 3 open calls in agROBOFOOD. The first open call for innovation experiments selected 6 of them who are currently in implementation. We have recently finished with the evaluation of our industrial challenges, and we have selected 9. So they are also moving on into contracting and implementation soon. And today we are talking about our third and final open call, which is the open call 2 for innovation experiments that started on March 1st, and it's ending on May 31st. So there is still enough time for you to create your proposals and apply. The total budget for this open call is 2.65 million euros. We are looking to fund around 6 projects. Each selected innovation experiment can have a budget of 300 to 500,000 euros. We're looking for consortia this time with members, 2 to 5 members, out of which at least 1 should be an end user and 1 should be a technology provider. This means that the budget per partner will be from a minimum of 50,000 euros to the maximum of 300,000 euros. This is our timeline. So the open call began on March 1st and it will end on May 31st. In June and July, during the summer, we are going through the evaluation. In August, the final results will be available, and then experiments will begin in September this year. They have 17 months, so each experiment has 17 months to be completed. This means that they finish practically in the end of January of 2023, practically February, if we look at the next beginning month. So we are looking for solutions that are based on robotic technologies that address a problem in the agri-food sector. As I said, the consortia are made out of 2 to 5 partners, and it's very important that each consortium has an end user and a technology provider. We are also seeing it as very important that you have a contact with a regional digital innovation hub, so connected to your region. And I will talk about this a bit more later. So your idea, of course, should be addressing the topic. We have defined several topics within our guide for applicants that are related, of course, to robotic technologies. The idea should show technical excellence in terms of the starting and target TRL. We're looking for solutions that are ideally having a starting TRL of 6 and looking to, of course, leap during the implementation to TRL 9. The idea, the proposal should show using a viable business model. It should prove the sustainability impact. It should have a diverse geographical coverage and, of course, should be implemented by competent partners. This is our step-by-step application process. You can register on our website where we have the platform for applications and remote evaluation. All the documents that are important are, of course, on our website. And it's important that you find and compose a consortium with cross-border and cross-sectoral partners. And there are necessary documents that you would need to fill in and submit. In terms of the cooperation with digital innovation hubs, we see 2 different stages. In the project proposal stage, it's important that you establish a connection, that you have a communication with the digital innovation hub, for which you can, of course, contact your regional cluster leader of agROBOFOOD network, which all the contacts are available on our website and, of course, in the guide for applicants. In this stage, you can consult with the Digital Innovation Hub and with the regional cluster leader, of course, about your proposal, about the topics that you wish to address, the services that you would need from them for implementation, for development of this initial work plan and possible approach for testing and prototyping and demonstrating the solution together with Digital Innovation Hub. And then in our project implementation stage, the projects that get selected for funding, they will be developing a detailed work plan jointly with the Digital Innovation Hub. So each project will have a mentor DIH who will be supporting and monitoring them throughout the implementation and reporting, and of course, providing services that the SMEs require. It's also important to mention that DIHs and competence centers can also be subcontracted. I see now a question, what is a CC? So CC is a competence center. It is actually a digital innovation hub, but is mostly focused on providing technical services. They can be subcontracted provided that they are not already part of the core agROBOFOOD consortium and already funded by agROBOFOOD. And we see that having contact with one of the DIHs from our network is mandatory for your proposal. This is a list of the important documents that you can find on our website, and we will also go through very quickly through the proposal template and one important part of the guide for applicants, so that you can be better prepared to start this process. When we go into selection, we do a 2-stage selection. The first stage is a remote evaluation, where we have independent evaluators who are reviewing the proposals. Each proposal is reviewed by 3 evaluators with different expertise. So one who is an expert in robotics, one who is an expert in agriculture, and one who is an expert in business. So this is how we try to have a comprehensive overview on the proposal. After this stage, top-rated applicants are shortlisted, and then in the second stage, we have the interviews with independent evaluators. It is important to mention that these 2 stages have distinct objectives, and that the second stage, where the interviews are happening, is very important, because in this stage we tend to, of course, look at your presentation, look at the way you have focused on the key topics in the proposal, try to perhaps detect early if there are some possible issues with the future implementation. And in this stage, the evaluators who are in the panel and who are asking the questions may have or may not have read your entire proposal. So it's very important that your pitch is well formed and that you focus on the sufficient amount of detail so that they can understand and comprehend your idea. In terms of the implementation of the innovation experiments, which is also important for your project proposal, we have divided the implementation in 3 phases. So we have the design phase, which lasts for 3 months. And in this phase, we are actually looking, the experiments should be developing their design plan, their work plan, and their first deliverable will be a report that will in detail actually explain how they plan to develop and market the product. The second phase is the longest one, of course. It's dedicated to the development of the robotic solution. And then the third phase lasts for 6 months. And this phase is a market phase, actually related to the exploitation of the results, the ideally first sales or first contracts, first demonstrations of the experiments to the potential customers and clients. And in terms of financing, this is exactly how the funds are also distributed. So the experiments within agROBOFOOD receive funding based on a lump sum. So after the approval of the first deliverable, you receive 30% of funding. After the second, you receive 40%. And then after the third, you receive the remaining 30%. This is a this is quite a large amount of money for this solution. This is why, of course, this open call is very attractive, as the last 2 have been, and it's very competitive. And the management of the finances and the reporting is very simplified, so it's streamlined and it's very easy for the SMEs. You receive the funds. You, of course, need to comply with your national rules and with the rules of Horizon 2020 in general, but we are not looking for any type of complicated financial reporting in this matter. This is the website where you can, of course, apply and find all the key documents and the key information. And this is my email. You can, of course, write to me with any questions you might have. Now, I would suggest that we answer. I think there were a couple of questions in the chat, and then I would move on actually with sharing a bit more information about the project proposal template and the scoring sheet, which I think you should have in mind while preparing this proposal.
Perfect.
So,
Dragana, we had one question that asks, the partners need to be from Europe, or can it be from any other place?
Yes, the partners can be from Europe, of course. They can be EU members, they can be associate EU members. So there is a full list of countries in our guide for applicants where we explain in detail what are the countries, and also, since we are looking for expansion of the agROBOFOOD network, we are actually giving additional points to consortia that cover countries that are not already in the agROBOFOOD consortium. And you can take a look at our guide for applicants there. The complete list of countries is available.
Okay. And the second question that we had is if can the object of the proposal be technology development or only testing? Is validation before commercialization allowed?
Yes, so we are looking, of course, for the development of new robotic solutions or enhancement of some existing robotic solutions. But if we have a look at the guide for applicants, there we state that we can't fund actually robotic solutions and their development from their very beginning. So we are looking ideally to fund the solutions and their further development of those who have been tested in a relevant environment. So this means that you are in technology readiness level 6, that you tested in a relevant environment already, and then you're moving on to a further development and then commercialization. And then there was also a question, I believe, let me just see.
There was one,
only testing or validation, let me just check, before commercialization is allowed. So this, of course, depends on the specific proposal. It is not only testing and validation. So, of course, we are not funding the experiments just to have something already developed, tested, and validated. My answer for this is no, you can also, of course, include the development of the solution before the testing and validation. And testing, it happens that our proposals maybe have been tested in a lab or maybe have been tested in one environment, for example, a greenhouse.
Okay.
This means that we have some type of testing, but this is still not this still can fall into this because it's fine, because you're looking to test this in a relevant environment, you're looking to scale it up and to develop it further.
Another question that we had, Dragana, was if a healthcare application is eligible for this call, which I think it's not, it's only dedicated to agriculture robotics. So I'm answering that.
Yeah. So healthcare is not eligible. So we are looking specifically for robotic solutions in agriculture.
Okay, and in the same question, they are asking us how this call is different from DigiFed, but since it's not.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, since I'm not acquainted with DigiFed. So
yeah, but I think only the difference between that with the healthcare sector is what agROBOFOOD stands for, only for the agricultural sector, and funding is only for robotics in that sector. So another question that we got is, what was the score of the last proposal that was financed in the previous call? And they want to know the cutoff of the first phase, let's say, the cutoff point or marks.
In the previous call for innovation experiments, I believe. So there is no threshold or a cutoff that is decided upon beforehand. So we have the evaluation, and then we are, of course, looking at shortlisting at least double the number of proposals that we want to fund, and then interviewing this number, and then afterwards looking at, of course, the the first ones on the list according to their points, and of course according to the budgets, and then we are looking at how many we can fund. I can't give you the cutoff points for the last one. This is something that we don't actually share with the applicants. But we had, for the first innovation experiments open call, we had 93 proposals received, and out of that we have selected 6, and we have interviewed 12. I'm not sure what was the. I'm trying to see this because there is a lot of things in the chat, and now I'm trying to see
Yes.
if I managed to answer.
Again, should I ask you next question?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So, a question we received is if it is beneficial to have partners from as many countries as possible, different countries, or if consortia can be formed from partners from the same country.
So it is beneficial to have partners out of other countries that don't belong to agROBOFOOD consortium already, because, for example, if you have one partner from a country that doesn't belong to agROBOFOOD already, you will receive 1 additional point. If you have 2 countries, then you will receive 3 additional points. And if you have more than 3 countries, you will receive 5 additional points. So in a way, it is beneficial to have covered countries from other countries that are not already part of agROBOFOOD consortium. So you will receive more points for this. And of course, there were proposals that were coming just from one country, even selected. So this is not something that will make or break your application. If all the other things are good, these are points that are added to the geographical impact, to the cross-border character. Of course, you need to have a cross-border character, but it doesn't mean that you need to have 5 different countries involved.
Perfect. Is TRL 6 a strict criterion to start the project?
Well, this is not a strict criterion. So this is something that we would ideally like, and this is something that that in the evaluation, in the part that is in the criteria related to the technology impact and use of standards, we have a preference for a higher starting TRL, but this is not something that is absolutely necessary. So there is a preference, but if an experiment is at TRL 5, but it is very promising and has a large potential, and we see that and it gets evaluated well, it means that it can be selected.
Perfect. So another question that we got is if the budget should be exactly correspondent to the ratio of the lump sums of the 3 phases. So if we should have 30% for the market, 40% for development, and 30% for design, or is that is the use of those lump sums unrelated to the distribution?
This is this is a very good question. So within the project proposal, we have these we have a list of deliverables, and these 3 deliverables that are related to the design, development, and market phases. So these 3 phases are, as you said, 30%, 40%, and 30%. This is how it's divided, and it is let me just see. So the use is related to this. So the budget should be correspondent to the ratio of the lump sums.
Okay.
If I am not mistaken, now I'm sorry, my brain hurts a bit. I'm looking at all of these documents.
Okay.
Yes, I think
No worries. I
this
will
is
just take your time because there was a question. I think it's more addressed to me. If we're going to share the presentation. So we are going to share the presentation, and we are going to upload the webinar in our YouTube channel. And we will share the links with you. So be sure that you will have the minutes, let's say, from this webinar to make the process easier for you if you need to go back and see some of our answers. So coming back to the budget, Dragana, maybe just to make sure. Oh, we've lost you
yeah,
now.
I can now to of the meeting. Can you hear me? Hello, Dimitra.
We've lost you for a minute, or I've lost you.
Can you
I'm
hear
not
me?
sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay,
hear
we
you.
can
Can
hear
you hear
you
me?
now.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
perfect.
It's probably my
No,
internet. Okay. Yes.
yeah.
So I have
So,
sent this question to our financial manager, and I will get back with the decisive answer on this.
okay, or please, if we don't answer that question, just send us an email after the end of the session, and we will make sure to answer you personally about that. So another question that we had is which kind of relation should the participants have with the DAH? Is it mandatory to involve it in the design, or is it optional to subcontract the DAH?
It is optional. So only thing that is mandatory for you in the project proposal stage is to have a contact with them. So within our template, and I will share my screen now so that we can take a look at it together, because I think it's a good moment to do this. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully this will work.
Yes, yes, we can see your screen now.
Okay, so this is the project proposal template. And here, this is related to your local digital innovation hub. This is the only mandatory thing, that you have the name of the DIH and contact details of the person. So if you want, of course, you can, and it's preferable for us that you have a relationship with the Digital Innovation Hub, and that you can ask about the services they can offer to you in the implementation of your project and your experiment, so that you can already be acquainted a bit more about the services that can be offered. Because here in the proposal template, as you can see, we have this table where you need to tick the services that you would like to use. So these services are provided by digital innovation hubs and competence centers. And you can, in the proposal, tick the key services that you would perceive as important for the project. And of course, you can add some other ones if not everything is stated here, and elaborate here about those services and ways you plan to engage with digital innovation hubs. So if the project is funded, you will have your mentor DAH, and you will have services available at your request that are helpful for your further development of the experiment. This is important for us because agROBOFOOD is, through these open calls and through these innovation experiments, actually also testing and developing these services and looking at ways to enhance the cooperation between the SMEs and digital innovation hubs. So this is why we're looking at your elaboration of the services and the ways you see your future development and your future relationship with digital innovation hubs. And you will see in other places in this template questions about services as well. So I think that it's a good idea to have a contact, not only a contact that you will put into this template and say, okay, we sent an email to this guy, but to actually try and have a communication to understand better what the Digital Innovation Hub does and what kind of services it offers. We can maybe go to the next question, or I can stick for a few minutes more on this proposal template and go over it. Dimitra, how many questions do we have?
There are three more questions this far.
Okay.
Okay, should we, they're very quick ones. So
Okay.
one is, which is the difference between the previous innovation open call and this innovation open call?
Mm-hmm. So there is not much difference between these two. The second open call was actually made, both of the open calls are were in the beginning established with the idea to fund each of them 6 different experiments. The topics have stayed the same, the eligibility criteria, everything practically has stayed the same. The difference is that in this open call, we are putting a bit more emphasis on exactly on what we discussed on these services and on the connection with digital innovation hubs, but mostly this open call is very similar to the first one.
And another question is if someone can submit 2 proposals.
You can submit 2 proposals. Of course, not both of them will be funded. What I would also, I mean, in theory, it's fine that you submit 2 proposals. What I would just like to stress here is, if you're a project coordinator of one proposal, and you are, let's say, one of the members of the consortium in another proposal, you can't get funded for the 2 proposals. So the same applicant, be it a leader or a consortium member, can be funded through more than one of our open calls and more than one of the projects. Being that this is a very competitive call and that here half a point can make or break you being shortlisted or not, or funded or not, I would actually, but this of course only depends on your capacity, the time you have, the ideas you have. I would rather suggest or recommend that you put your energy into crafting one very good proposal than crafting 2 proposals that maybe won't be the best.
We now have 4 questions, so maybe you can go ahead with the template to see if more questions will come up, and we will answer the last 4 questions afterwards.
Okay, yes,
Okay,
let's do
perfect.
this.
Okay.
Okay, so we have went through this first part of the template that explains the cooperation with the agROBOFOOD consortium. And then moving on, we are of course moving on to the proposal description. This is so visually appealing because it is very important for us that you actually really respect the formatting and the maximum number of pages, which is 30 pages for this. And this is important for you to understand because our evaluators really are instructed to dismiss the pages after the 30th. So they are not reading them. And then what happens is if you go over 30, it happens that your budget and your deliverables don't get read because those are the last 2 pages. And then the evaluator can't assess the value for money. And then we are in a big problem. Well, you are in a problem because your evaluation will be, your scores will be less because of this. So please be mindful of this. Don't change the font, don't change the spacing, stick to the 30 pages and everything will be fine. So starting with the description, we have a simple box where you can tick the sectors that the proposal fits in. and then one related to robotic competencies, where you can, of course, take the ones that your proposal covers. In the description of the project, of course, we're looking for the background or the problem that you are solving and how your solution addresses the topics of the open call, the key objectives of the solution, your work plan, including and addressing the 3 key phases of this implementation plan. Then we have expected results and deliverables, where we're looking, of course, for some smart indicators where that's appropriate to make the objectives and results measurable. Then we have the consortium composition, where we are looking at the main competencies, the experience of each partner, and this cross-border and or cross-sector character of the consortium. Moving on to business impact, where we're looking at business plan and scalability. Of course, this is the business challenge and the business potential. How will you reach the end users? What will the number of end users be? What is your pricing policy? What are your financial forecasts for the next years? How much money do you plan for your solution to save for your customers? So here we are looking at a business model that can be substantiated with a business model canvas or some other similar tool that will share the key business model elements in a simple way. Scalability, of course, is important. So how will you scale in other European countries or international markets? The innovation. This is important because we are looking, we would like to find and fund innovative and novel solutions. It is very important that you also within the business case explain your competition. Don't say that there is no competition. This is never the case. So take care and focus on describing all of these key elements, and then we have a line related to the business services from Digital Innovation Hubs as well. Moving on to the technology impact and adoption of standards, this is the part where you describe the applied technology. And this is a part where you can have a graphical overview of the solutions architecture to identify the main components of the solutions, the new development, the reuse of existing components. And it is, of course, important to show these 4 points, which are related to interoperability, replicability, reuse, innovativeness. So here also we've stated that you need to describe your starting and target TRL level in accordance with this EU TRL scale. And then, of course, the technology services from Digital Innovation Hubs. In other aspects, we have the sustainability impact, we have the systemic relevance, and in systemic relevance, special attention should be put on the connection with the agROBOFOOD network or the impact that your experiment can have on this network. There is also financial impact. So if you have any kind of support from public or private entities, be it a financial, additional financial support that you received, this is the place where you can explain it and also explain your approach for further fundraising in the future. Then we have the multi-actors involvement. So in what way and to what extent are you engaging with different actors in the agri-food supply chain? How are they involved in the use case, in processing and consumption? We have a part related to ethical issues. So this is related to your data management, the GDPR, competition law, and so forth. And then you have a place to put in some additional video material or actually a link. If you have a video that's not longer than 5 minutes, you can also share the link to that video here. And then we have the list of deliverables. and I have received the information that yes, these deliverables need to follow the percentages that are here defined. So the answer of the question is yes, they are related. So you can look at receiving 30% after the design, and then it goes as it is stated. And after the deliverables and the overall costs, you have the budget and cost justification per partner. So here we have the costs, we have the partners. You can also look in the guide for applicants. We have defined in more detail the personal costs, the travel costs, equipment, other goods and services, subcontracting, indirect costs. So it is all explained in more detail, and of course we are available to answer the questions. So it's important that the winning proposal may have a total cost less or equal to 500,000, and this total cost needs to be equal to total deliverables cost. Okay, so this was the project proposal template. And before we move on with other questions, I would just like to share something else with you, which I think, pardon me, is important.
We have gathered some questions from the template as well. So yes, please share with us, and
okay,
we will go to the Q&A session again.
So this is a part of the guide for applicants where you can see the key points for evaluation. And why am I showing this? Because from our experience previously, we don't think that the applicants have put enough, let's say, attention on this. So we have shared the way that our evaluators actually score the proposals. And you can see that there are several criteria, and they are described here, and you can see how they are weighted. So what is important and how much. And here, so the first one, of course, it's related to looking at the suitability of the overall proposal. So does it fit the topics of the agROBOFOOD call? Is the consortium composed in such a way that it can actually deliver? What is the value for money? Is the requested budget justified? And so forth. And this carries 30 points. Then we have the cross-border character, the geographical impact, that carries 10 points, 10%. And I've already explained this to you, how it goes with these additional countries. The business impact, the business plan and scalability, they carry 25% or 25 points. And here you can see that business model and scalability both they are weighted differently. So business model carries 60% and scalability carries 40% out of these 25. It's a bit complicated, but hopefully hopefully you can understand. Then we have the technology impact and use of standards, also carrying 25%. Then we have sustainability impact, where we're looking at how far does this proposed solution actually contribute to sustainability improvement in a realistic manner? And we are, of course, referring to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And then we have additional 20 points that go into financial impact and systemic relevance, in a way that you can demonstrate your connection with innovation ecosystems, your connection and impact on a global food network, and of course, any relevant support, financial or non-financial, from the stakeholders and players in the ecosystem. So this is, you have seen the proposal template, and now you can see how the evaluators are looking at your proposal template, so that you can actually see what are the key points that you need to stress and align well, so that you maximize your chances for winning. we can now move on to questions.
Let's start with the last one because there's a question in the table that you showed us in the GFA. There was a 0 to 5 in the middle column, and somebody is asking what are the points showing.
Okay, so the points are on each of these sub-criteria. So on each of these criteria, you can receive from the evaluators either a point from 0 to 5. And we also have an indicative appraisal scale. I think it is also somewhere here. If not, I will show you what it actually means. So from 0 to 5, it means that if you receive, for example, it actually measures how much shortcomings are there in this in this part of the proposal, let's say. So has the question that's been asked, has this criterion been sufficiently covered? Are there any shortcomings? How significant they are actually? So this is how the evaluators are giving their scores. So they are giving scores from 0 to 5, all three of them on each of the criterions.
Okay, I'm going back to the previous question. So one question we had is, are all kinds of crops accepted in the proposals? For example, grapes and strawberries.
Yes, so all kinds of crops are accepted. Of course, we need to take into account how big is the market for this crop. So how many surface, let's say, how much surface agricultural surface is covered with these crops. So will this be a sustainable, a scalable solution? But in terms of crops, of course, all kinds are okay.
Okay, and another question that we had is, what is defined as end user? Would, for example, a farmer who could test the technology in his field be considered as an end user?
A farm can be an end user as long as it is registered as an SME. So an end user's role within the consortium is to actually provide this environment for testing, to give, of course, feedback and take part in the implementation. So a farmer who would test the new technology in the fields can be an end user as long as it is as he has a registered SME that can apply it. So an end user can't be a physical person. It needs to be an SME. And of course, in the guide for applicants, it's defined in more detail what we mean by SME. So it's in line with the European Commission recommendations.
I think that this also answers, Dragana, the next question, if DIH can participate as a partner. But I think that we have the same requirement that we had the first time, that the consortium should be from SMEs exclusively. So if
yes, the consortium is from SMEs exclusively. So if a DIH is an SME, not already funded by our consortium and by other selected experiments, and if the role of this DIH is well, of course, explained and substantiated, this can be the case. Or this DIH can be subcontracted.
Perfect. So another, sorry, the microphone was muted. So another question that we had is if you can provide a little more detail about the business impact and business model, and what kind of data are we expecting for financial projections?
Yes, so in terms of financial projections, we are looking at the business perspective of the proposed solution. So financial projections actually show, okay, so you can, in your proposal, form financial projection for the following 3 years, starting from the moment that you go to market, and forecast in this and financially forecast what will be your sales. Actually, let's say forecast a profit and loss statement in a way. So you can see what would be your revenues, what would be your expenses, what would be your profit in the end, so that we can have a clear overview on what you plan to sell, who are your customers, who are your potential clients, what kind of contracts are you planning to make, are you going business to business or business to customer. So this all can be covered within the business model. And of course, the scalability for us is also important, because we're finding looking to fund solutions that are scalable in terms of either moving to larger markets and being able to produce more of the product, or move on to industrial production of the robots, or perhaps scaling in a way that moves to another industry or another sector where this solution can be applied as well. So these two types of scalability we're looking at.
Perfect. Another question that we had is if in paragraph section 1 included the page budget.
Sorry, is paragraph section 1 included in the page
The page
budget?
budget, it was in
Let me just see.
template that you, the submission template that you've shared with us. This question came then, I think.
I am not sure which paragraph, because I just take a look at it once more, because I'm not sure. Paragraph section 1 included in the page budget. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so it's in the template, the warning on the page limit is at the beginning of paragraph 2. So it's a clarification from Fabio that sent us the first question. In the page limitation, is the first page, is the
No,
first section?
It's
Yes.
not. No, it's not.
No.
Entire proposal from beginning to the end, it needs to fit into 30 pages. And of course, you can save some space by deleting these short explanations between below the paragraphs. So if we have this 2.3 general description, and then below we have briefly described the background of your innovation experiment, you can delete that and just start with the general description.
Can they have a cover page maybe? So start to end, it will be 30 pages, but a cover page, let's say, is that allowed, Dragana?
30 pages, beginning to the end.
Okay. So I think this also answers to the next question that we had. If the 30 pages include the whole document, so I think you pretty much answered
Yes,
that.
it does. Yes.
Yes. 30 pages, not from section 2, from section 1 until the
From
end.
Yes, from the first page, so not from section 2, from the cover page to the end.
Perfect. So
Always frustrating, but yeah.
we are very strict about that, so please keep the 30-page limits. So there was another question that said on the key points for evaluation, business impactors proposals need to confirm that they will provide access to the lessons learned, best practices, etc. What do you mean exactly by that?
Mm-hmm. So, because the experiments who are selected will also be in a way impacting the network. And our goal is to provide the lessons learned, the best practices that will be harvested through different forms and templates and reports, so that you can confirm, of course, that you are able to provide access to the lessons learned and the best practices from the implementation of your projects. I hope that this
Yes.
explains.
So Denise writes that proposals with more partners will have a longer section one and then less space for describing the proposal.
Yes,
Yes,
they will. This is true. This is
this
true.
is
But
true.
what can we do?
It's a limitation that exists. We're sorry about that. So another question that we had is if participants have to describe the potential competitors in the impact section.
You can describe the potential competitors in the business model section. So you can describe them within the business model, within the business innovation. So let's say if you're describing how is your solution innovative, then you of course can put in the information on the competitors there, showing so what's your innovation to the current state, to the current way this problem is now solved, and what is your competition as well.
So the next question that we had is if there is any particular policy about the intellectual property created for the experiments financed by this call.
Yes, you can find our data privacy policy, and also you can find on our agROBOFOOD web page that is covering this open call. You can also find the draft grant agreement, which also covers the issues related to intellectual property and all the questions related to data management and other things.
So we had another question about the additional points when you were explaining the GFA 05, and what is meant by additional points? What is the maximum amount of points that the proposal can score?
The maximum amount of points that you can score is 120.
Okay. And one last question that we got is, sorry about that. Where can yeah, there's a little bit of noise in the so where can somebody find the countries in the agROBOFOOD consortium?
Yes. So in the guide for applicants, you can also find the ones who are not in the consortium. We tried to simplify this a bit for you. This is in the a part definition of eligible consortia, which is 3.2.3, where you can see SMEs from which countries would receive additional points. And of course, you can go to the Cordis website and find the agROBOFOOD project there, and there you will see all the partners and the countries that they are coming from. So you can also check there.
And one last question, I think that we got, if we're expecting any dissemination activities in the proposals.
Yes. So for example, many of the proposals that are currently of the projects that are currently running have their dissemination activities and sometimes ask for the dissemination package plus from the digital innovation hubs as a service they require. If we're looking at the projects that are supposed to go to market, that are supposed to demonstrate these experiments and show them, so then the promotion and dissemination, of course, are expected to happen in the phase of going to market, or maybe even before. It depends on the specific case. So we are expecting that you include some dissemination activities. Of course, they can be budgeted as well. And or if you have a connection with the Digital Innovation Hub, or we assign a mentor DIH to you who can provide dissemination services, then you might get them free of charge. But this is all then later on discussed within the implementation and contracting process. But in general, yes, we are expecting dissemination activities.
Perfect. I think that was the last question, and we are exactly in 1 hour. So I believe we can
It
come.
felt a bit like I was on some university exam.
Yes, today we had a lot of questions, which was very nice. Actually, I think it will be very, very helpful for our participants. But again, as we have mentioned in the beginning, yes, this is the last call of agROBOFOOD. One last question. We are, as Dragana mentioned when we began the webinar, this is very sentimental for us because it's the third and last one. It was a very, very nice, let's say, journey, and a very nice way to see the ideas that are out there in the robotics in the agricultural sector. So I think that if you want to say any last words and last advice to the participants, Dragana.
Yeah, well, I would like to just thank everyone for the great questions. I hope that this was helpful. And of course, you can write to us. You can write to your regional cluster leaders as well with all the questions and all the questions you might have during the preparation of your proposals. And of course, I would like to wish you all the luck in this open call. And yeah, to have a lot of energy and focus in the upcoming weeks while you're doing this. And we hope to see you in our open call.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, as Rogana said, don't hesitate to contact us and we can clarify things for you. And good luck to all of you to your submissions. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.